In this project, I'm building a profile style user interface inspired by Instagram using HTML and vanilla CSS. It's the UI only and not a full clone of the app. It was originally recorded during a live stream, but I've edited out all chat and conversations not related to the project. Enjoy! All right, let's start with an index.html and a style.css. And we're really just going to focus on our HTML today. And I'm not going to build out this top part. Here's the other thing that I've been learning about these clones is that on mobile devices, you can't truly go into full screen. So everything that we do, we're viewing in the browser on a mobile device. So the time, the Wi-Fi, the battery, those are all part of the mobile device. I'm not actually going to build that out. So I'm just going to go basically from this point down. I'm going to treat this name as the H1 since it's the first thing on the page. It also has the verified check mark. And then everything else I'm going to make a button, but there isn't really going to be actual button functionality. I'm not going to build additional pages or make it so when you tap on the button, there's some sort of event. But I am going to do the correct semantic thing, which is make these buttons, because that's ultimately what those things would do. All right. I don't know, do we want to... I guess we could treat this as the header then, couldn't we? Since we're going to put an H1 in there. So I'll put a button in first. And then I think this would be, we'll do an ARIA label. Whoop. Go back. And then this is our SVG. And then I'll put in an ARIA label, or excuse me, ARIA hidden, true. Yeah, that makes sense. And then I'll put in an H1 and I'm not actually copying Tori's spellings content. I'm using her profile as a mockup or a template. We picked out images last week. So we have images. Let's take a look here at what we picked out last week. And I was going to use Heidi the Sheltie as our template. So puppies and van life is what we decided. And I have, yeah, we have 7 images so far. Let's grab our profile image. Here's Heidi the Sheltie. So this will be our profile image. And then we have other images, other profiles that we're going to need here for our followed by. And then we have the images for the actual grid. So I think what I'll do is I'll reuse the original Heidi's image down here, just as these 3. They can be anything. I don't think they need to be anything specific. And this is already optimized. So there's our H1, and then this is notifications. What is that? More. The ellipsis is more. And I think this should be in a container. And I'm going to say header left because I can't think of anything better. And I'm going to do div header right. And then we've got 2 buttons. button with the type of button, ARIA label, notifications. Let's see here. Notifications. Whoops. ARIA hidden. And I always make my ARIA, or excuse me, my SVGs ARIA hidden true because I don't want a screen reader to come through and read that out. I want it to read the ARIA label of the button. And then let's make sure that we put in just a class of, maybe we want, because we do have actual buttons here, don't we? These are actual buttons. So I think we would want our icon buttons to have their own class. So we'll just say icon button, class, icon button. We have another button. I just want people to know some basics, that's all. Plus it's fun. I think it's fun. Obviously, or I probably wouldn't be here, right? And we need our ellipsis. There we go. And what just have, there we go. Okay, I think that'll help. Oh, and we have a verified. So we'll include that in our H1. I couldn't find the exact verified icon. Well, I only looked on Ionicon. Shield with the check mark. This is what I found. So we're just going to fake it. And we might want to put, I think we're going to want to put this in a span. So we can, yeah, I think we're going to want to put this in a span. I'm going to give this a class of verified. And I'm going to do another span with a class of axis hidden and verified. Yeah, because we have this check mark that says verified, but we need to read that out to the screen reader too. And if we put these in spans, those are inline elements by default, so those should line up just fine next to this H1. And I do think that we would want the verified to be part of the H1. That makes sense to me semantically. And I think that that would work well for a screen reader too. And for SEO, because people pay money for those verified check marks. So I think that that would be good for that to be in an H1. So, okay, there's our header. Let's work on our main body. So we've got an image and a figure tag. So that's off to the left. And then we're going to have another container with a name. And then we're going to have 3 containers with posts, followers, and following. But the whole thing needs to be in one container first. So we'll do a div and we'll say profile. And then we'll do a figure with a class of figure. And an image. And then we'll say profile meta. And then we've got the name. So we'll do div.name. And then I'm going to put these in, well, we can do divs. So we'll say div dot meta count. And then that's posts, followers, following. So what is it? 2,644. 2,644. Well, not a span. It does need to be a div because it needs to be block level. Meta count, I'm going to do a class of count. Oops. So there's our count. And then I'm just going to do a div posts, because they are styled differently. This count, this number is darker, so they are styled a little bit differently, and I think it's bigger too. It's hard to tell because this is lowercase, but these are styled a little bit differently. This is a little lighter, I can tell. So we'll just say type. Yeah, I think this works. 1.8 million followers. How do people get 1.8 million followers? I mean, I know Tori Spelling is like famous, but blows my mind. It's just a lot. It's just so many. 6,947. 6,947. Following. Okay, so I think we also need this to be in its own container. So let's do a class of meta count container. So we've got our image on the left, and then we've got our profile on the right, and then at the top we have the name, and then we have another container beneath that, and then within the container these things are aligned. So this was a good idea. This was a really good idea to put this in here. I'm going to start doing this moving forward, putting our mockup, because we do a lot of screenshots and mockups. Well, that's all we do. And yeah, I think this is going to save us a lot of time when we're doing our CSS, not having to constantly readjust our markup. So, okay, good. Okay, let's move on to this. So this is like, what would we call this section here? So that's our profile. So after our profile, this would be like the description. So we'll do div.description. Practice, people. I'm telling you, practice. This just gets so much easier the more you practice. It really does. Okay. So we know that this, pretty much everything from grew up on your screen down to this is like an open text area, right? Then this is like the one link that Instagram gives you. This is like a channel, right? Isn't that what Instagram calls this now? Because every time I follow someone new, like 24 to 48 hours goes by, and then I'll get a notification saying, so-and-so invited you to join their channel. That's what I think this is. And then we have this followed by, and this is a combination of, I think this is a combination of people that I follow. Is that what this is? because this is a friend of mine, Annie. This is Luke Perry. I follow him. I don't know who this third person is though. Like, I don't know who that profile is. So I think this is all people that I follow who also follow Tori Spelling, but I guess that's neither here nor there. My point is that we have 4 distinct sections. So, okay, so this would be like an open text area. So I'm actually, for this, I'm going to put in a paragraph tag with some lorem ipsum, and we can put in custom content there. Yeah. And then we've got a link. So I'm going to do another paragraph with a link. And we have a link icon. Let's see here. Do I have a link icon? I don't think I do. Let's grab one. Icons. So we'll put in the icon, aria, hidden true. And SVGs by default are inline elements. Anchor links by default are inline elements. Paragraph by default are block level elements. So the text for the anchor link and the SVG, as long as I don't change the display property of SVG, which I almost always do, those should align. Those should line up together. So what I'll probably do, I normally change SVGs from display inline to display inline block, or excuse me, display block, but I think that we'll do inline block and see how that goes. We could always put a custom class on some of these SVGs and specifically leave them as inline. We could do that too. And so we'll just do, I'm just going to do like a fake website. So we'll say Heidi, theshelty.com, ... and 2 more. And I think I will put this in a span just because it feels tidy. And we love a container. All right, and then I'm going to do another paragraph tag with an anchor element. And we need our chat bubble. Let's see here. Chat bubble. Totally Tori, 1.6K members. Okay. Totally Heidi, 1.6K members. Okay, and totally Tori and then 1.6K members. These are 2 different colors. So this probably needs to be in a span, right? With its own class. Oh, can we have a span within a span? Probably, hang on. I think that we should just do 2 spans. Yeah. So anything with like a distinctly light gray. There's lots of different colors here. Lots of shades of gray. So like this is a little darker. Maybe the difference is just bold. Is that it? Is the difference just bold? But this looks definitely looks like a lighter gray. We'll have to see how it goes when we're styling. Yeah, I think maybe the difference is just that it's bold. Okay, we'll go with this for now. But I can already tell just by putting this in Affinity Photo and being a little more thoughtful with some of the guides and the grids, I can already tell that I'm paying more attention to detail. So if you are like me and you're getting to the styling phase of where you do all the markup first and then you go in and you work on your styling and you're realizing that you didn't do a good job on your markup, which is what I was realizing, try this. Try this. So, okay. So then we have this section right here. So this would be like our description. And then I'm going to do another div with a class followed by. I'm going to do another div followed profiles, and then I'm going to do 3 figures. Figure with the class of figure, and I'm just going to put in the one profile that I have right now. Which is this. And we'll clean up some of our alt text once I get better profiles. All right. And then I'm just going to do, I think this can just be a paragraph. Followed by Lukeberry Daily. All right. Then we have a button container. So what would we call this? Following message email. This is like a call to action container. Div CTAs. And we've got 4 buttons. Button type equals button. Following message email. Give this a class of button. And then this must be add. Let me see. I don't think I have an icon for that. That looks pretty good. Person add outline. I like it. And then this would have an ARIA label of add profile. And ARIA hidden true. Yeah, that works. I like it. And the button element by default is display inline block. So these should automatically line up for us. We shouldn't have to do much styling other than the button itself, right? So this is another reason why I like to build projects with vanilla CSS, because once you understand the default properties of things like buttons, divs, spans, links, paragraph tags, you don't have to flexbox it or CSS grid a lot of these things. These buttons should all line up naturally because they're just by default display inline block. So once you build some things using vanilla CSS, those things start to make sense. So yeah, I like it. Okay, so I'm not sure if I'm really, so this to me is like what am I thinking of? Not an accordion, but like a tabbed UI, right? I don't think I'm going to build out a tabbed UI here because I don't think we have time for that. And I wasn't planning to do a lot of that type of functionality. But let's at least make sure that these things are all in place. Do I have a grid icon? This icon is proprietary. So I think what I found instead was let's look at some of our SVGs. I was going to just do this. And we could stick a little plus in there if we want to. Maybe I can do that tonight before tomorrow. We'll just stick a little plus in there. So I don't have this proprietary icon. I don't think I have the grid, so we can go ahead and download that. I do have this, like the repost. Where is it here? We've got that. It's not exactly the same, but pretty close. What is that? I think that's if you tag someone, right? I don't think I have that. Let's see if Ionicons has anything. Tag. I mean, we could just do like another user. Let's just do like this. Because a lot of these are proprietary and I don't want to steal Instagram's icons. Also trying to keep the project very much like it's not an official Instagram build. Still trying to keep things like a little homemade. Yeah. Oh, and grid. Yeah. I love it. Okay, so if this was tabbed content, these would sit in a different container. So here's the call to actions. These would be in a different container. So this would be like div button tabs. And we would have a button type button. This would be aria label grid. Wait, is that what we, yeah, like photo grid, post grid. Those would be the posts, post grid. And then for accessibility, it would be aria pressed equals true. And that's how we will style, by the attribute. Whatever is pressed will get the darker fill and the underline. That's the semantic way to do it. And then let's put in our SVG, which is our grid outline. Aria hidden true. Yeah, that works. And next we have Reels. This is the video cam outline. Aria hidden true. And then next we have repost. Is that what that is? Repost? Remix? I think last week we decided to call that remix. Share, repost. I'm going to go with remix because I think that's fine. Repeat. Pretty sure that's what this one is. Aria hidden true. And then our last one is tag. Person, circle, outline. Aria hidden true. All right. Oh, we have to take these out. Kind of thinking now, I don't know, I kind of want to build tabs now. I hadn't really planned on that. Well, we'll see how things go tomorrow. Post grid, Reels, remix, tagged. And those were our button tabs. Okay, so now we want our post grid. Post grid. So this would be, and we'll pin the first three. So this would be, I guess this is everything, right? Yeah, because I see Reels here and I see the thumbtack. So this is everything. And then this would be just Reels. And then this would be like to repost or share something, I'm guessing. And then this would be anything that I'm tagged in, right? Do we have a thumbtack? Pin. We could just do the pin. We'll just do pin. Should we do filled? We'll do this one. So if we are going to have, so the correct way to style any image is to have an image inside of figure tag, but we can't also have, it's not semantic to also put an SVG inside a figure tag. Or is it? Does that matter if it's hidden? It would make my life easier. Let's ask. Let's ask the big guy what he thinks. Is it okay to have an SVG and an image inside a figure element? So, well, the SVG is not purely decorative. It implies the functionality implies that it's pinned, right? The SVG is the SVG does not have functionality, meaning it's not a button, but it does symbolize something about that image. Which means we wouldn't want the SVG to be hidden, which is what I normally do. We would want a screen reader to come through and see that that post was pinned. Well, let's see what the verdict is here. Yes, it's totally fine to have both an image and an inline SVG inside a figure. The HTML spec doesn't limit figure to only one piece of media. The idea is that the content inside one or more visuals, code samples, charts, etc., collectively forms a self-contained unit that the fig caption can describe. A couple of points to keep in mind: semantics and accessibility. Multiple visuals are allowed. You can have your main image plus a symbolic or ornamental SVG. Think of it like having a chart plus a legend in one figure. If the SVG is purely decorative, just symbolic, not critical for understanding, give it ARIA hidden true and maybe rule presentation. That way screen readers won't announce it redundantly. If it does add important meaning, an icon representing award-winning, or in our case pinned, attached to a product photo, you could provide a fig caption that mentions both the photo and the icon instead of trying to describe them separately. That's a good point, because the fig caption could be access hidden, so it could still be screen reader friendly, and it could say simply pinned, right? And be access hidden. So, okay, so this is a good example. So I think I would do ARIA hidden true. And then we would absolutely position the SVG in that upper right-hand corner. And then we would have a fig caption with the class of access hidden. And it would say pinned post. This post is pinned. Best practices. Keep the alt text on the image for the main content. Hide the SVG from assistive tech if it's decorative. Use fig caption for any explanation that ties the image and the icon together. Okay, so yes, it's valid and semantic. Just decide whether the SVG needs to be announced to users and structure your accessibility accordingly. Okay, I love it. Where are we here? Figure with a class of figure. And then we have our image. So we're going to do our first 3 images. They're in the optimized folder. And let's see here. Well, we might as well do it now. Let's just get it over with. So what is this? This is a yawning puppy. Yawning puppy. Oops. Yawning puppy. Okay, there we go. And then we'll put our SVG first. Oops. Angela, get with the program. Pin right here. ARIA hidden true. And we're going to have a fig caption with a class of access hidden. And we'll write the CSS for that tomorrow. Access hidden is just pinned post. It just describes the relationship between the SVG and the image. That's what the fig caption is doing. And then the entire figure tag is going to be position relative, and the SVG will be position absolute, and the fig caption will be class access hidden. So we're only going to see the image and that SVG over top of the image. All right, what's the next one? This is, Sheltie puppies. What do we have here? 7 Sheltie puppies. Can you even imagine being surrounded by puppies like that? I can't. 7 Sheltie puppies. Stop, I can't. All right, what's the next one? Here. Okay, and then remain free, do not have SVG, and do not have a fig caption. Just an image. And this first result is man life at dusk. Another great when it comes to alt text. Man life at dusk. And I'll try to find where it is this evening. Interior of a again. That looks like Mr. Machine. That looks like Mr. Machine about paint. I'm just gonna call it Mr. Machine. That looks like Mr. Machine. Man, that looks like Mr. Machine. We all know Mr. Machine, right? I hope so. All right, and we have a revolution. There we go. All right, yeah, I do need to get some more images because we have an odd number of images. And really, we should just be putting, I'm not going to do any special functionality for images. Let's just put loading lazy. Loading lazy on all of the images. And I think that will be fine. And I will grab more images. Yeah, I will make sure I grab more images before tomorrow so we can see, because loading lazy does give us some good functionality when we're scrolling. On Instagram, you can see the little spinny wheel where there's clearly functionality built in to do a load more. We're not going to do that. I don't think we need to. I don't think we need to. If our images are well optimized and we're using loading lazy, that works. That is semantic. That works. That is, I mean, I've seen in the dev tools myself that is an effective tool for loading images. So, is that it? Oh, let's put this in too. We'll put this in as our footer. Yeah, we'll put that in as our footer. We're doing great today. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 buttons. I'm going to do button, the type of button. I'll do an ARIA label. Oops. So this is home, search, post, or add, I guess, reels, and profile, right? That's to go look at your own profile if you're not already on your own profile. I think that's what that means. So, home. ARIA hidden true. ARIA label home, ARIA hidden true. Yeah, that's about it. Search. Whoops. And we have add a post, add content. How about that? Add circle outline. Aria hidden true. Reels. Whoops. I'm going to do our video cam outline. Where are we here? Then we have profile, which is a button. And the ARIA label is profile. I think it would be what the current user profile. Current user profile. Is that what that does? Hang on. I mean, there's nothing like building out a UI to, or a clone of a UI to notice things for the first time. Yes. So if I'm on my profile, I still see that as a button to go to my profile. Yeah, and that is, yeah, okay. And Reels is just Reels. Current user profile. So this would be a figure, the class of figure. And we'll do the Heidi, the Sheltie. I don't think we need anything else because it's a button and we have an ARIA label and we have alt text. So that's our footer. Wow. What do we think? I love it. I went back in my own collection and I have a huge collection of stock images from Unsplash. So I just grabbed a big chunk of images that I already had downloaded and I added them to this list. They all have alt text. I think they're all working just fine. I took a peek at, we'll go ahead and take a peek at the front end, which we hadn't really done yet. So we have more than 7 images to scroll through. I have loading equals lazy. I know that Instagram does have a more of an intentional load more when you scroll through somebody's profile. We're not going to do that here. I'm just going to implement loading equals lazy for loading. Plus the images are well optimized, so that also makes a difference. Yeah. Let me see here. Pinned post ×3. I think honestly some of these are like pinned reel, right? So we had 3 pinned posts, but also some are reels. I think I'll take out, you know what? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. We'll deal with it when we get to it. We do have a style.css. Let's get this linked here. I would also like to, well, let's go ahead and hit stop this and start it again. So we can see that things look a little crazy. That's okay. Ooh, look at that pin. It's a little different perspective when it's this giant, huh? Here's all of our images. These are the images that I already had in my collection. Oh, looks like we're missing some. We'll find those. Or we'll just take them out. Let's grab normalize. Normalize.css is a browser reset. I would sort of consider it like a more of a gentle browser reset. Browsers are pretty consistent nowadays. When I started learning back in 2009, 2010, browsers were wildly inconsistent, and we were still dealing with really old versions of Internet Explorer. And it's not like that anymore, but there are still inconsistencies in browsers, and it is still a good idea to use a reset. And I personally enjoy normalize, but you can use whatever you like. So let's go ahead and get this linked. We also want to grab some font from Google Fonts, and we worked on another Instagram project last weekend. Let's see here. What did we work on? Let's find it here. I can't remember what it's called. And we are looking for DM Sans. DM Sans. Let's use this again because I think this looked great when we used it last weekend. And I'm just going to copy this. So we're set up now to write our CSS. I generally will just copy this in and comment it out. So I just have an easy copy. We have our fonts, normalize, our style sheet all linked, and we can double check to make sure that this is working. Let's see here. Go to inspect. I'll check the network. And we can see here now that everything is linked and coming through. So, yay. And if we need some JavaScript here, we'll go ahead and add it. But I don't think there's really anything here that requires like even DOM manipulation. So let's just do some base styles, starting with some variables. So I always just kind of do black and white. For black, I rarely use pure black. I do kind of like a dark charcoalish gray. I'll do a gray and a light gray. Oops. And again, these are just colors that I've kind of discovered over the years. Let's do a little color picking here as well. And I think this is more like this is a different blue. Maybe this is more like a teal or an aqua. Yeah. And then we want to make sure, I feel like I see 3 different shades of gray here. So, and I was also watching the stream back yesterday. Well, I was editing yesterday's stream and I was thinking to myself, I think the difference here is regular versus bold. So strong, we would use the strong element. But clearly, this is a much lighter gray. And I don't see this lighter gray being used anywhere else, maybe here. But let's just color pick some of these. And I mean, we can use them. But I guess my point is to implement this bold, we're going to make sure that we style the strong element, and we'll just put strong in because that's an inline element, right? So any place we see bold, we'll just put in our strong element, our strong tags. Let's see. So maybe that should be our black. Yeah, that works. And then this could be our strong. They're almost identical. And then what's this? We'll do medium gray. So kind of thinking I'll take those out. I don't think we're going to need those. So we've got white, black, strong, gray, aqua, blue. And then what's this gray color? That's actually very close to what we did have. So that can be the light gray. And then I feel like this up here, the 1.6K, and this for the non-active buttons looks pretty similar. Yeah, I'm going to make an executive decision that we use this color gray for this text and these buttons. That is my executive decision. And I think that that pretty much covers everything. And I think that that's also the same. Yeah, that's the same as the strong color there. So let's do black, blacker, dark black, light black, charcoal. Let's do charcoal. Charcoal. Is that how you spell charcoal? Charcoal. No, C-O-A-L. Okay, I'm good with this naming convention. So I think we have our colors now. And I know that you can use lots of different types of variables in Root. I tend to just use it for colors, but there's no limit, obviously. So let's add HTML. We're going to change our box sizing to border box. I also like to do wildcard elements. Whoops. And we'll also do box sizing here. And then we'll start with the body. I always say padding and margin 0. Let's grab our fonts. And then font size 100%. I like to set my line height to 1.65. Line height is meant to be a unitless number. I think the browser, I know the browser will take a value like pixels or rems, but it's intended to be a unitless number and it is a multiple of your font size. I also like to set a background color. Even if it's just white, make sure that you do have a background color in. And then we'll set our color, like our normal text color is going to be charcoal. And then we will change it as needed. All right, so we have our basic styles here. Let's go ahead and just do some things like figure. I always take the margin off because it's a pain in the butt. Images. I'm going to change the images to display block. Max width 100%. Height auto. Make them nice and responsive. So for SVGs by default are display inline. I almost always change SVGs to display block, but in light of our design and what we have going on here, a lot of our SVGs I do want to still naturally be inline, so I'm going to do display inline block, so we have the benefit of an inline element that we can put margin and padding on, which you can't really do with an inline element. So we'll say display inline block. And then just to wrangle in some of our styles, let's do a width of 3 rems and a height of 3 rems, just to get the document under control. The other thing that we need to do, there, you can already see that we've wrangled in a whole bunch of stuff there. So the other thing that we need to do is we need to go through our document. And this is really common with Ionicons. So any place where we see stroke current color, we want to remove current color. And that's so we can style it with CSS. If you don't do that, you're going to have a hard time. You're going to have a hard time styling. So we're going to take out current color, but we're not going to remove the attribute. We're just going to leave it empty. Yeah. So what I like to do then is I'll say stroke. Let's change it to black. Black or charcoal? We'll do charcoal. And then if there's a fill, we'll go ahead and put charcoal on that as well. So we're kind of covering our bases. Now you can see here that it's not getting the purple color of the link because it said current color. That updates that. And then we will most likely come back and we will be adjusting some of this. Then for our buttons, I'm going to say border none, background color, transparent, and then padding. I'm going to take the padding off the buttons. Buttons by default are display inline block, and we may come back and adjust some of this, but you can see now our buttons are cleaned up. All of these things are buttons. Nice and tidy. What else do we want to do? Oh, we need some styles for access hidden. Those are our screen reader friendly styles. And I'm going to just grab that from my GitHub. Grab it from our last project. There we go. Here's our access hidden styles. Now anything with access hidden, like the verified, I don't think we had a ton of access hidden. Let's check and see if there's anything else here that I normally put in. Well, and actually this is a good one to check. So let's sort of shape our container now. So I'm going to do this is definitely a mobile first project, right? So by mobile first, I'm going to put in some desktop styles to constrain, and we'll use min width for that. And we'll have to change some of these. What is our container? So our container is, we probably want to do this on the body. How did we do it last time? We did it on main, and we did not use a header or a footer. So I am going to do this on the body. So let's just do a body class container. And I don't think we need that. Container. With an aspect ratio of 9:16, height auto, max height, DVH, dynamic viewport, margin 0, auto to center. Did I put... The body might not be the best way to do this. It might be better to wrap everything. The header, the main, and the footer. Oh, I put a background color of black on the body. That's why. Okay, I was confused for a moment. That does seem like a better way to go. There we go. Okay, that works. And then these are desktop only styles on the container. What else did we do here? Wow, short-term memory. So we put a height of 100 VH, display flex. How did I forget all of this? Display flex. But I don't think we need to do this on the body. I don't know. I don't think I even needed to do this on the body because there was only one child element in the body. But 100 VH would be a good thing to put in there. I'm actually going to do DVH, dynamic viewport height. Yep, I'm good with this. So there's our container. Okay, let's start with our header. Okay, so I'm going to do FlexPlex. Row, no wrap. Justify content. Line item center. We probably also want to make sure that, and I'm going to keep this, no, we can keep this here because it controls the body. I'm going to do header, main, footer, background color, white. There we go. Let's also make sure that we've got some padding. And this is about 28 pixels of padding. So we'll put, let's see here, 28 pixels. I know that that's going to be way too much. That's, well, it's 1.75 rems. That's a lot. We can try it. Right now I want to put that on the body. There we go. Yeah, that makes sense. Here's that button. Here's our H1. These are naturally aligned because they're display inline block. So on header left. I'm also going to do display flex. Flex flow, row, no rep. And for justify content, I'm going to do flex start. There we go. And then let's do align items center. Let's see here. And then let's take the, that's our primary header. Let's get rid of that margin, 0. And I almost always change my line height on headings to 1.25. I think I'm just going to change it to 1 for now. That helps. There we go. And then let's, we need to wrangle in that SVG. So here's our button. That's our button for the back arrow. Here's our H1 span. And actually, I was thinking about changing this markup. I don't think we need all this markup for the verified. So here's our verified. I don't think we need this extra markup that I put in yesterday. I think we could just do, I'm going to take this span off. And I think I'm just going to put verified on the SVG, just like that. Because our word is hidden with access hidden. Yeah. And then we can style the SVG directly. Verified. It's pretty small, so maybe width 1 rem, height 1 rem, and then the, what is it, fill is aqua. There we go. It's pretty tiny. There we go. It might be better if we style it this way, actually. Yeah, I think this is going to be a better way to style this. And that is way too much padding. That is way too much padding. I think 1 rem of padding is much better. And then these buttons, I mean, these don't really have that tap target for accessibility, do they? But if we want this to, I mean, look at how wildly out of proportion this is. And we need to take down the size of that H1 also. That helps. Although we could still have the tap target, I have to remind myself of this. We can still have the tap target. We just need to reduce the size of the SVG. So for any button with a class of icon button, let's just change the size of the SVG, but keep the size of the button. So our buttons by default, are getting a width and a height of 3 rems, which gives us the 48 by 48 tab target. And our buttons are naturally that size. So let's just do a couple extra global styles here. So we'll say icon button. Width 3 rems, height 3 rems. And then we'll give this some padding of 1 rem. And then our icon button SVG will have a width of 1 rem and a height of 1 rem. A little small. So if we've got 1.5 and 1, I think we have to change this to there we go. So now our button is still 48 by 48. Our SVG is 24 by 24, and this is way more proportional. But our button is not aligned, and we don't need to use Flexbox or anything like that. I think we just need to adjust our padding, and it's going to snug it up right in the middle. So 0.75 plus 0.75 is 1.5, plus the SVG is 1.5, which is the 3 rems right there. That's perfect. Beautiful. So it is a little further apart maybe than this, but we still have our tap target now, and it's proportional. So that looks great now. Love that. And then here's our H1, which we need to shift . So we may want to put Flexbox on the H1 just so we can get it aligned on the x-axis, right? Unless we want to change, sometimes you can change the line height of something to fake that, right? We used to do that all the time. It doesn't work that well though. So let's just go ahead and put Flexbox on the primary header, and then we'll get the control over aligning this. Or I suppose we could just reduce the size of the SVG. No, I'm going to just put Flexbox on the primary header. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. There we go. And then we'll just give it a little gap. 0.5 rems, which is about 8 pixels. There. Look at that. We love that. I love it. And then well, let's keep going. We may not need all this padding on the header. We're going to have to come back and adjust our padding once we get the rest of these styles implemented. All right, there's our header. Literally the easiest header I've ever styled. All right, let's get into the main. Oops. So our header is done. Beautiful. Here's the main. So the first is the profile. I am also going to display flex this. I might be using display flex on this entire thing. Row no wrap, justify content, space, space between, and align items center. And then let's give it a gap. Whoops. We'll give it a gap of 1 rem. See how it goes. There we go. Let's get that image under control. So our figure, I'm going to make, figure elements by default are block level elements. I generally give the figure, the container, not the image, the width and the height. So what do we think that is? About 50 by 50, which would be what? 3. Let's do it in rems. So 50 divided by 16, 3.125. 3.125 rems. We can adjust that if we need to. And I'm going to say border radius. Whoops. Border radius, 50%, overflow, hidden. Oh, and we need a little more specificity here. So we're going to have to say profile figure, and then we'll do profile image. Well, really, I'm going to say auto, and I'm going to set the aspect ratio to 1 to 1, so it's a square. And then I'm going to say width 100%, height 100%, object fit cover. Whoops, what happened here? Profile figure. Oops, what happened? Align items. There we go. Obviously that's too small. Probably maybe want that to be about, trying to use rems. I had a comment on one of my videos saying, well, you really interchange pixels and rems a lot. So I got a little more clarity on when it's okay to interchange, when it's appropriate, and I am trying to use rems as often as possible. So there's that. Maybe 150. So that would be 9.375. Yeah, that's a little bit better. think we want to give this a width. So the profile meta, I'm going to give this a width of 100% minus the width of the figure. Well, and then we should take out the gap. So really it should be 10.375. And then profile meta also needs flexbox. Justify content, space, I think space between, yeah. And I think we can give this a gap of maybe 0.5 rems. Oh, meta, actually, that should be on the meta count container. There we go. No, we still need this to be on profile meta. There we go. I think this image is still a little big, huh? Let's try 8. Let's try 8 rems. That's a little better. Maybe a little smaller so we can get those borders in there. I would love to not need the width on that. So let's take out the width. Let's give this more gap, and instead it should be, oh, let's change that to 7. I just hate doing this type of width if I don't need to. Put the gap back in. And then for this, I think this just needs more gap. And that's going to space it out correctly. And then instead of space between, we probably want flex start. Boom! Look at that. We love that. And then, yeah, that's perfect. Okay. And then this needs to be uppercase. So here's the profile meta. It's the name. So are those bold? Yeah. So posts, followers, following is our normal content. But these values are bold. And I think this is also bold, but it's also uppercase and a little bit smaller. So let's just strong tags. We need styles for strong. That's what I was forgetting. So let's just go right here. So what are our, we have everything, right? Do I still have my fonts pulled up? No. Let's go back and look at our fonts on Google. So We're using regular 400. We've also got okay, so we've got a 500, a 600, a 700, and 800. I am partial to, I think, 600. So not super bold, but like a little bit bold. So let's do strong font weight 600. And then let's change the color to black, whereas the color by default is charcoal. And then we'll put in strong here. Although the strong element means something, right? It emphasizes something. So should we just be MDN strong. The strong importance element. The strong element indicates that its contents have strong importance, seriousness, or urgency. Browsers typically render the contents in bold. The strong element is for content that is of strong importance, including things of great seriousness or urgency, such as warnings. Okay, so now I don't think we should use strong. We've styled strong, but using strong as a styling tool, I think, is a bad idea. So we have classes here for count. We'll just go ahead and use our classes. So I'm glad I looked at that, because we do want to be semantic. We want to be semantic for screen readers, for SEO, for accessibility. We want to use those things correctly, not just for styling. So we can take this out. And we'll just go ahead and style count. So I'm going to say font weight 600 and color is black. There we go. Perfect. Now let's style name. And this is text transform, uppercase. Oops. Also font weight 600 and font size. I'm going to just slightly decrease the size to 0.9 rems and change the color. We might need to increase the font weight. Yep, we do. It's not enough. 600 is not enough. So let's go ahead and increase to 700. So for our count, I think it's perfect. I think for the name, it needs to be a little bolder. Maybe for the name, this could be 800. And I think we could also add like a pixel of letter spacing. We're so close. There. What do we think? I love it. I love it. Okay. So now we need to put a border around the profile image, and I've done this. I'm going to go to my GitHub and show you the code where I've done this, because the border is a gradient, which you can't exactly do that with a border, but you can fake it. So let's go find it. And I did that recently on my own personal website. Let's see here. right here. So I put in a border, make this a little bigger. So I put in a border, a 2 pixel border solid, and then I did a border image with a linear gradient. And this is all SAS. This is on my personal website, which is all SAS. So I do use frameworks and libraries in other big projects. So we'll have to adjust this a little bit. But I'm going to copy this. So on our image, I'm actually going to put this let's do a pseudo class. Profile, figure, we'll use before. And I'm going to make this position relative. And I'm going to make this position absolute. Whoops. And our width is 7 rems. And I want it to be outside. So I'm going to make the width 8 rems. And the height is also going to be 8 rems. Also border radius. We're going to have to play with it. I guarantee it's not going to be perfect right out of the gate. And then I'll just do inset. No, need a little more. Top, negative 0.5 rems, and left, negative 0.5 rems. We're going to have to adjust this a little bit. Well, first, let's just make sure that we can actually get it to work. So we're going to do a linear gradient, bottom to right. Let's just try. I'm just trying anything just to see how it works, just to see if I can get it to work. Oh, and we probably need some z-index too. Oh, and it's not working because of the overflow. So let's put the I suppose we could just put the border radius on the image. Image. Actually, let's ask our friend for help, shall we? Because I'm not immediately thinking of the best approach for this. I just need a hint. Let's ask for help. What is the best approach for a gradient border around an image like this? I've used what is it? Border image border image in the past to fake it, but I'm also using border radius and overflow hidden, which hides it. Short answer, don't use border image for this. Use a transparent border and multiple backgrounds with background clip or a pseudo element donut. Both play nicely with border radius and don't get eaten by overflow hidden. Here's the cleanest version, no pseudo element. Okay, so avatar is, in our case, it's a figure with a class of figure. ChatGPT is using div with a class of avatar, then the image. Okay, conic gradient. And it also gave us a little assist here with some hex codes. Ring W, gap. Width, aspect ratio, border radius, overflow hidden. Transparent border holds the gradient. Border, calc, var, ring, plus var, gap, solid transparent. Two backgrounds, white gap on the padding box, gradient on the border. Why it works. Okay. The transparent border creates space for the ring. Background, white, padding box, gradient, border box, paints the white inner ring on the padding box and the gradient on the border box. Border radius is honored automatically and overflow hidden only clips the image, not the ring. If you ever need more control, like variable ring width per side, use a pseudo element with a radial mask. But for most story ring avatars, the first transparent border and background clip approach is the simplest and most robust. Let's give it a shot. So let's go ahead. Okay, so let's copy this into our variables. This is the perfect stuff for ChatGPT right here. So we want on our container to be width 220, aspect ratio 1, border radius 50%, overflow hidden. So width, so I'm not going to change, well, I'll change the width. Oh, that's the wrong thing. Right here. So I don't think we need that. Don't need that. Transparent border holds the gradient. Two backgrounds, white gap. Okay. Width, height, object fit, we're already display block, border radius, inherit. I'm just going to add the value. Okay, that's pretty close. Hang on, we're missing something. This, the background. Well, wait a second. Okay, so this almost works. This almost works. The white ring isn't happening though. See if we can figure out why. Take this out. Two backgrounds. White gap on the padding box. Gradient on the border box. I'm going to take a picture of this so I can show what's not working. Oh, wrong one. Almost. The white border does not appear. Okay, so you need padding for that inner white ring. Set the gradient thickness as the border and the white ring as padding. Okay, so, well, we already have a color of white, so I'm not going to add that. So white ring equals padding, gradient ring equals border. Okay. And then we're changing. Okay. So for the conic gradient, can't I just put in ring? I think so. And then for gap color, I'm going to put in white. And then gap W, ring W, I have that. White, padding box, conic gradient, ring. Padding border background, white, padding box, conic gradient, bar ring, border box. Maybe I need to put it in. Whoops. Okay, there it was. That was it. It just didn't work with the My variable wasn't working. So now let's just adjust. I think we just need to adjust some of our padding. Actually, going to take out these variables and we're just going to roll our own. So I'm going to do 0.5 rems. And then for the border, which was ring W, 14 pixels. So we don't need these variables. And then for this, the actual border size, I'm going to do the same size, 0.5 rems. Boom! How close does that look? Oh, we could do a little skinnier, and also we need to adjust our colors a little bit too. This should actually be yellow. Let's make it just a little skinnier. Yeah. And then instead of the purple and the blue, we want it to be a little more, so this is like kind of light purple, reddish on the top and bottom, and then yellow. I'm just going to color pick this yellow and swap out. This. I'm going to swap out here. And then so close, so close. And then this. Swap out right there. There. That's pretty good. Close enough. I think that's close enough. And then let's just adjust the width of our image. Yeah. What was it before? 125 pixels. So 7. I'm going to change it to 7 rems. That's what we had it at before. Well, there you go. And we'll leave these comments in for anybody else. I love it. I love it. Yeah, we're really going to have to adjust. I'm going to make one adjustment to the padding on my top level elements here. So I'm going to do no padding on the top and bottom and just on the left and right. There, that looks a little better. Well, but for the header, no, we'll keep the padding. We really need to finish everything before I adjust that padding. I need to see everything. It's in its entirety. Maybe we can just have padding on the top, padding on the left and right, and no padding on the bottom. Yeah, that's better. Okay, Angela, focus. All right, so here's our description. I'm not really worried about the description at all. We could definitely write a custom description. I think that looks fine though. we really just want to style our remaining paragraph tags. We should give these last two paragraph tags custom classes so we can style them specifically, although they're already in line. So how much styling do they need? We just need to style the SVGs, right? And we need to put in styles for our links. Let's do that. And we also need to take, well, there's a little bit of margin, but there's not that much margin. So and anything that is an @ is styled with blue, which we don't have anything like that. So that's like an internal Instagram link that when you're linking to another profile or user. But these links are not styled blue. They're just bold. Yeah. So, and those would all be within our description, so specific to the description. So they're, I mean, obviously Instagram is using JavaScript or a framework or something to detect that, right? Which I'm not really going to do here. If I was going to do anything like this, I would put it inside of an anchor element, and then I would just use a class to style it. Okay. So see, sometimes I just have to talk it through. Just have to talk it through. So let's do some global styles to account for that. So we've got two types of anchor links. We've got one that's bold, and we've got one that's like not a hashtag, but like an @ symbol. I'll do that right here. So we have an anchor link. We'll just say anchor links by default, the color is blue. And text decoration, whoops. Text decoration, none. Whoops. And then let's make sure that we have focus, hover, and active. So I think instead of text decoration none, we would actually want, I'm gonna go peek at my GitHub. Do I have links though? See, this is another reason to keep a GitHub, because I don't remember anything. Not a darn thing. Okay. Here we go. So what I generally like to do is this. Not all of it, most of it. So normally in the old days I would do text decoration none. I'll take that off. Now I'm going to do text decoration color transparent, text decoration thickness 3 pixels, and I'm actually going to change this to 2, and then text underline offset. I'm going to change that to 5. And then on focus, hover, or active, I'm going to change the text decoration color to blue. And then I'm going to transition the text decoration color. Text decoration color, 300 milliseconds, ease in out. So this is for our normal links. So this should work here now. Just like that. But of course, those have a different style, and I am going to adjust the offset. But those have a nice transition now. we'll just say bold. We're just going to do a style of bold. Not strong. And really, we could combine this though. Bold, and let's change this to 700. And then let's give these links a class of bold. But they still have that blue underline, which is totally fine. Let's move this down. I think we could just adjust. I think we can just, all of this would still be the same. We would just do a separate set of these. And we would change this to black. Even though it's mobile and even though it's tap, and it's unlikely that people would, well, Instagram has a desktop version, so you would still conceivably hover. Even if they don't have this experience, I'm including it because for accessibility, it's the right thing to do to make sure that you always have a focus, hover, active state for your links, or any UI element or any element that requires a user to interact with it. It's just the right thing to do. So I am going to include it. So this is good. This covers a wide range. So any link by default is going to be blue unless that link is specifically styled with the class of bold to not be blue, which is what I feel like I'm seeing here. So let's get these SVGs under control. So I'm going to style the SVGs specific to the description parent container. Do I have a description class in here yet? Not yet. So any SVG inside the description container is going to be a width of 1.25 rems. I think that's the width and height that we've been using that works. Yeah, and they're also display inline block. So we should be able to put a vertical align on these, just like that, to put them in the middle. So you can see there, vertical align and display inline block work together. So that's another benefit of using default styles, right? Working with some default styles. And then we could do something like, we could just like skew it a little bit. And then let's reduce this padding a little bit. Let's just do 0.5 rems on the top, nothing on the left and right, nothing on the bottom. I should tighten it up. Yeah, that works. We might want to increase the font size a little bit. I'm going to leave it. We're going to leave it for now. We can come back and tweak some of these things. We're going to leave it for now. I do want to. Should we change out this little chat bubble? I don't know. I do want to like just sort of skew the link SVG a little bit. I think we could just do like rotate, right? So transform, rotate 45 degrees. Is that right? Yeah, negative 45 degrees. So let's put in a different chat bubble. Let's put in the proper chat bubble. Yeah, let's put in this one. I think it's this one right here. And we'll make this aria hidden. True. And then let's make sure that we take out current color so we can style that stroke ourselves. And then let's only rotate the first of type, so we're not rotating both. So we'll do description, SVG, first of type. It's pretty specific, but it's okay. Oh, paragraph, first of type. Hang on, description, paragraph, first of type, paragraph, then SVG. There we go. Beautiful. Oh, it still didn't work though. Description, first of type, SVG. Description, paragraph, first of type. Oh. Nth of type. We'll just do that. Okay, there we go. It's very specific, but we got the look that we wanted. We got the look we wanted. Okay, so this is the followed by section. Followed by. So we've got the profiles first, and then we've got the paragraph. So I'm going to display flex this, flex flow, row, no wrap. Every time. Justify content. Well, I'm going to do flex start. Flex start, align items, center, and I'm going to give it a gap of 1 rem. And then let's get our images under control. And then these are the followed profiles. Followed profiles figure. And these are pretty small. So I'm going to give these a width of 3 rems. Height auto. Aspect ratio 1:1. Border radius 50%, overflow hidden. And then these also need to be, although to get the overlap, if we display flex these, so it might be better, thinking about how I'm going to get the overlap. What if we do display inline block and use like do we want to use negative margin or transform? Yeah, we're going to have inline blocks not going to work. So we are going to have to flexbox those. So that's the followed profiles. I think we can just use transform to overlap them. Followed profiles. Display flex. Flex flow row. No wrap. I know some of that's redundant. And then let's make sure that they have a border. But if I have overflow hidden, but I think we can put the, let's put the board, well, put the border on the, okay, we just did this. So padding and border, isn't border on the outside of the box? Or is it still on the inside of the box? Must be on the inside. If overflow hidden, you can still see it. Okay, so we'll say border, 2 pixels, solid, white. Okay. And then transform, translate X. If we want it to move that way, it's positive or negative? I think it's negative. Negative 20 pixels. Oh, but it's going to move all of them at the same time. So we need to do one at a time. Okay. So we're going to do followed by profiles. Oops. Followed profiles. Figure. Oops. And I'm going to do nth of type. Just going to do 2. What happens if we just do the second one? Boom! Okay, but we got to go in the opposite direction. We're thinking. Now we're thinking. And we'll do... So we would probably want to do 1 and 2 if we're going to go in the other direction. And we would go plus 20 plus 40. Okay. Hang on, we just have a little, so there's 1. So we want to move 1 and then 2. Oh, I did this in the opposite. So we want to do this one 40 and this one 20. Oh, we're so close. Oh, maybe both 20. Okay, we're getting there. So it would probably need to be, so there's 20, and then this would be need to be 60. And then, okay, and we also need to change the stacking order. Is that it? We just need to change the stacking order? Why is this one underneath? Shouldn't it be on top? So I'm going to do a z index of 0. A z index of 1. And a z index of and that still needs to be 40. We did it. We did it. And then let's increase our border a little bit. And then we just need to shift this entire container over. Maybe not quite so much overlap. I think they could be a little bigger. And maybe instead of translating to in this direction, we go in the other direction because we know now that we have control over the stacking order with position relative. Yeah, so let's go in the opposite direction. Although we could just, no, I want to go in the opposite direction. So we would leave the first one and just adjust the second and the third. So 2 and 3, and then go in the opposite direction. But the stacking, and then opposite stacking order. So 2 and 1. So that's on the bottom. That's 2. So this should be 1. I thought that was how I just had it. No, the stacking order would be don't tell me I got it. This would be 2. That would be 1. This would be 0. So this would be 2. So that's 2. That's 1. That's 0. This is 1. This is 0. And then let's change this a little bit. There. And then that kind of gives us a natural gap too. So we don't actually need a gap. That gives us a natural gap. Look at that. Maybe a tiny bit more overlap. So maybe Instead of pixels, we could just do 1 rem. And yeah, that looks pretty good. Oh, we need to increase our border. I love it. We do need to decrease this space a little bit. So what if we just do the very bold move of putting a width on this? No, because it's going to change. Maybe it's better to just give this a little bit of translate. So then we've got the followed by paragraph. These are some pretty specific styles, but I could see, I mean, I could definitely see where these styles would be this specific because this is a very specific UI, right? So it makes sense. So we'll do a transform and I'll do a translate X. And then I guess we could just do 2 rems for this one too. Or 1. There we go. And I kind of feel like our text we're gonna have to, the text is off. The more we do, the more I feel like just the normal 400 weight text is a little bit off. This is a little bit off too. And we're not using the exact font that Instagram uses, but we're using one that's pretty close. I can just tell it doesn't seem quite right. We're gonna have to make some adjustments to it. I want to make these profile names bold plus 10 others, but we've learned not to use strong. So I'm just going to put spans with a class of bold around those. But I do want these to be bold. And is the one word that is not bold. Okay. Yeah, it doesn't look quite right, does it? Maybe our paragraph text should just be a little bigger. Maybe our yeah, I don't know. So maybe, but do we want to make all of the paragraph text bigger? I don't know if that's a good idea. No, we don't want to make it bigger. Maybe we just want the default font weight to be a bit bigger on the body. So right now our font weight by default is 400. Maybe 500 is better. That helped. FreeMind is saying line height. Adjust the line height. Oh, that's an excellent point. That is a very good point. I do have a lot of line height. Let's do that. Let's tweak that a little bit. You know, I'm actually thinking that we just didn't choose the right font. That's what I'm thinking. Although that helps. That looks a lot better. That's 1.45. Let's go ahead and add a screenshot. and see if we can figure out, ideally, a Google font. Can you tell me what font typography this is? Ideally, a Google Web font. Yeah, okay, good eye. Instagram uses its own proprietary typefaces, but their UI fonts closely resemble some publicly available families that you can use. Here's a breakdown. Username and follower counts. Font used by Instagram is Instagram Sans, their custom font. Closest Google font Enter. Okay, fair enough. Enter's clean geometric sans serif shape matches Instagram Sans very well for UI elements. Poppins can work too if you want a slightly rounder, friendlier letter forms. Bio, text, and links. Closest Google font is Roboto or Interregular. Roboto is slightly more neutral and very close to what Instagram uses for body copy on Android. Interregular has almost identical X height and tracking to what you see on iOS. Buttons. These are system UI fonts depending on platform. SF Pro on iOS, Roboto on Android. For a consistent cross-platform web project, Inter or Roboto at weight 500 gives the same feel. Okay, so to replicate this in this entire UI cleanly with Google Fonts, I'd suggest Inter as our root font. So for the user, so setting it as a variable font UI for the username, the bio, and the buttons. So basically for everything. Okay, let's do it. Let's just swap out the fonts and see how it goes. I'm down with it. I'm just sort of comparing these two. This is what we did last week. So this is a little, I can tell that this is a little different. The G is different. This O is a little rounder. I can tell that this is a little more condensed. Inter? No, maybe not, because this is longer. I don't want to spend too much time on this, but I can tell that it just doesn't quite look right. I'll just swap this out. Oh yeah, I can tell a difference. This is a little more condensed, but it's taller. Yeah, it's taller. It's not so, I don't know what the word I'm looking for is. Squat, squishy. Yeah, so that I'm good with that. Okay, so here are some of the changes that I want to make so far going from top to bottom. We have a lot of padding here on the left, but this looks about right on the right. So I'm just going to reduce the padding here, and we have less padding. There's less padding here. So we're going to go ahead and reduce that as well. So let's start with our header. I'm going to do separate padding just for the header. I'll keep 1 rem on top, 0 on the left and right. Oh, and we also need this background color. And actually, I'm okay with that, but we still need more padding over here. So we'll do top, right, bottom, left. Top, right, bottom, left. Yeah. And then maybe we don't need any on the bottom, actually. Top, right. So this would also be 0. So technically, it's like that. And then main, let's do the same thing for main. So for main, what happens if we just take the padding off the top and bottom? That looks pretty good. I mean, that made a huge difference. I love it. Okay. Now, so I kind of feel like the name and posts, followers, following are the same color and these numbers are different. So I think I'm just going to change the color of the name and put a little extra space there. That's all I'm going to do. So this would be charcoal instead. And then I think just some margin on the bottom. I don't know if 1 rem is too much. I think that's a little much. Maybe just 0.5. There we go. And then I think that our borders are a little too thick. So let's adjust those. There, look at that. Wow. And then I actually think that this should be, what's our other color? Gray. Just the gray. Is that accessible? We'll find out. I don't even remember if we checked accessibility for some of these. We'll do it right now. I think. Font size. Yeah, this needs to be a little bigger, doesn't it? There we go. And then let's check. And it meets the AA standard for contrast. So that works for me. Here we go. Okay, I'm going to stop now because I could just sit here and do this all day long. And then I think these links could be taken down a notch So that would be our bold style. And I had one other thing that I wanted to do to this bold style. So I'm going to change this to 600. Then I'm also going to add that this is, if it's an anchor that's bold, it should get these things. So if we add that bold class to something, we don't want text decoration. Well, I don't think that would necessarily come up if it didn't have it to begin with. Well, anyways, I'm just going to change that to include anchors that are bold. So there we go. Oh, that makes a huge difference. That makes a huge difference. As far as I'm concerned, this top part is done. I love it. And then this also right here, I think for these images, we could, this is a 3 pixel border, so let's bring it down to 2. And then maybe these could just be like a smidge smaller. So if we change that to 2.75, how does that look? Yeah, that would do it. I think this is just like the funnest part of these clones. Just the funnest part. Doing these little adjustments. I love it. It looks great. I feel like this is aligned. It's pretty darn close. All right, let's get our buttons in order. Let's see here. This is the profile, description, followed by, and then these are our call to action buttons. CTA buttons. All right. So these are the buttons by default are display inline block. I don't think I changed the property for those. Nope, I didn't. And these have a class of button. So let's just go ahead and style these as a global style. So we already took off the border and the background color and the padding. So we could probably, I'm going to leave these styles for future buttons and only style the button with a class of button. So we are going to be adding some things back in. So I'm going to say padding 1 rem on top, 1.5 rems on the left and right. Background color. So the background color is going to be this is I think it's the light gray, and then the color is going to be, I'm going to do the charcoal. We can adjust that if we need to. And then there is a border radius, unfortunately, but my hands are tied. It's a clone. Okay, so we need a little, these need to be bold. So let's just go ahead and do font weight 600, 0.5 rems on the top and bottom. Yeah, that's pretty good. We need a little extra border radius. Yeah, that looks pretty good. And then let's also give this a class of button. And we need to wrangle that SVG in. And then anything with a class of button that has an SVG, pretty small. So maybe a width of 1.25 rems by a height of 1.25 rems. And then we need to, we might not need that much padding. Let's see here. This is going to help us decide. So the height of the entire button is 34.4 pixels. The height of this button is 39.9 pixels. So we can probably just take this down. We might have to set a height on this, although that was pretty good. That was pretty close. We do need more width, so maybe just a rem. $35.9. I don't really want to set a height on these buttons because we have 3 buttons with text, and the text all has a consistent size. It's the SVG that kind of throws things off, right? So I would rather tinker with the size of the SVG than set a height on the button. I think that's a better approach. I think we also need to adjust the line height on this. Yeah, that does help. That's pretty close. I would rather do this than adjust the line height, and I would rather adjust the padding than the line height. Spelling words. What else did I do? I'm going to set this to auto. 0. What did I do? 8.5. And maybe just give this a smudge more padding. That looks pretty good. You know what else we could do is on this SVG, not last week, but the week before, we did learn how to add stroke to an SVG that only has fill. So right here. And the stroke is a unitless number. It is a ratio of the value in the view box. I think I'm understanding that correctly. So I think that we could make this stroke a little beefier. Yeah, look at that. That makes a huge difference. So don't be afraid to get in and mess with your SVGs. In fact, we could even do a little bit more. Don't be afraid to mess with your SVGs. It's just code. That's all it is. It's just code. I think we could even do a little more. Bit much. Yeah, perfect. Now, did it adjust? 36.89 is our height. 36.8. I mean, it's good enough for me. Now let's just add some more padding on the left and right so we can space these out a bit. And I'm just gonna yeah, 1.45 rems on the left and right. And then that's our container right there. Works beautifully. Yeah, though, I wonder, see, but now, am I really taking into account different screen sizes by doing that? Am I overthinking? Yes. Yeah. Okay. Instantly flawed. Okay. So, yeah, this isn't a good rationale, is it? So it's probably better. But then how much padding do you actually give your buttons? But you can force it to stay in a row with Flexbox, right? Mm-hmm. Unless we give our padding a percentage. So we could still do rems on the top and bottom, but give it a percentage. Would that hold up? Because you still need to define padding in order to, maybe a percentage would work. So if we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 buttons, if you gave it 5% padding and gave this container text align center, okay, well, disregard everything I just said. I am going to flexbox the CTA container. Yeah, because I can still force it to be in a row and shrink and grow. Yeah, okay, well, it was a nice theory. So I'll do display flex, flex, flow, row, no wrap, justify content. I'm going to do space between. We'll do align item center. Oh, CTAs. And then we still have to just figure out a way to make these buttons. So this is the smallest size, which is the iPhone SE 375. And then there's the biggest size. So we probably want to clamp the padding. Yes. So we need to clamp the padding, which I have done a couple of times. What is the best way to clamp padding on the left and right in CSS? Good question. There are a few clean ways to clamp horizontal padding depending on what you're trying to achieve. Here are the best approaches. Use clamp directly in padding inline. If you want padding that grows with the viewport but never goes below or above certain values. Okay, so if we have 1 rem, so we know that 1 rem is the minimum on iPhone SE because this looks pretty good. And then if we go to iPhone 14 Pro Max, we know that we need a lot more. So maybe 1.5 is the maximum. Or maybe 1.45. 1.45 is the maximum. What about, but how do we maintain? Now we just need to make sure that there's always a gap. That's how we make sure that there's space in between. Gap, 0.25 rems. There we go. So we could increase this to anything, and there's always a consistent gap. Okay, this is starting to make sense. So we want to do on the CTA's buttons, we're going to do padding inline. So this button is going to continue to have, I'm going to leave these styles here. This is just going to be more specific for this container. So clamp, we want 1 rem on the low end, and then we know we want 1.45 rems on the high end. So I'm going to try 2.5 VW. Yeah, I don't know if this is going to work because I'm trying to do this for all small screens. If you want slightly simpler math or better legacy support, or so there's max, ensures padding is never less than 1 rem, but can grow with the viewport. Oh yeah, I think this is going to be. Ensures padding never exceeds 3 rems, but scales up and hits that cap. So I think okay, on the low end, I'm trying to account for several small screen sizes. Can I do this? Padding inline, clamp, max, 1 rem, 1.45 rems, 2.5. You know what? I think max is actually exactly what I want because I'm just trying to do this on small screens. Okay. trying to account for several small screens, not really desktop sizes. This is the perfect use of ChatGPT. Taking a screenshot of a problem you're having and letting it look at it and help you come up with solutions. This is what I have found to be the best use of ChatGPT. So if you're only tuning for small screens, you use a fluid inline padding that never goes below or above your small device bounds, and don't mix it with the padding shorthand. That's why your rule isn't taking effect. Set block padding explicitly. Fluid left-right padding with min-max caps. SVW. Use SVW to avoid iOS. Use 4 to 5 SVW. Why your screenshot wasn't working. What is SVW? Hang on. MDN CSS SVW. Small viewport. The small viewport specifically refers to the viewport when the browser's dynamic UI elements like address bars or navigation controls on, no, that's not. Relative unit. SVW is a relative unit, meaning its value changes depending on the width of the small viewport. For example, if the small viewport is 320 pixels wide, then 1 SVW would be 3.2 pixels. Okay. The SVW unit is particularly useful for creating responsive designs that need to adapt to different screen sizes and account for the presence of dynamic browser UI elements, especially on mobile devices. By using SVW, developers can ensure that elements scale appropriately even when the available content area is reduced by the browser's interface. Comparison to other viewport units. VW, viewport width, represents 1% of the large viewport's width when dynamic browser UI elements are minimized. LVW, large viewport width, equivalent to VW. DVW, dynamic viewport width, represents 1% of the dynamic viewport's width, which adjusts between the large and small viewport sizes as browser UI elements appear or disappear. So width, 50 SVW. The width of this element will be 50% of the small viewport's width. Font size, 3 SVW. The font size will be 3% of the small viewport's width. Cap only the minimum. Let it keep growing. So the maximum, cap only the maximum, tight on tiny screens, comfy up to a limit. Okay, this might work. So it also didn't like that I had these styles up here. It said not to do this. So instead of this, we'll just do padding top, and padding bottom. Cap only the maximum, tiny on tight on tiny screens, comfy up to a limit. Cap only the minimum, let it keep growing. I actually think that this is the right way to do this. That works. 4.5 SVW. We just want to make sure, see, normally what you would do is you would just set a width on each of the items in the container. That's not what we want. We want the width of the item to be as big as the text or the SVG, right? So that's why you can't just say 25% or 20%. So I feel like we could also, I'm not going to mess with the gap. So there's more gap in some spots here. So what happens on, yeah, that doesn't quite work, does it? That's okay. That's okay. All right, so we'll do 4 SVW. This seems to work. Oh, that was an adventure, huh? And, you know, maybe we don't need gap. Oh, I think we do need gap. That's pushing that out of the container, though. So maybe we just need a lower end. And then we could still have, nope. Well, who knew, huh? Who knew? All right, well, we're going to stick with this 0.9 and 4 SVW. Seems to work. I feel like I'm overthinking this, though. I feel like I'm overthinking this. But also I'm not. So that works. That works. So these are the button tabs. And I am also going to flexbox this. Okay, so the button tabs, we'll do flex flow. I'm going to do row, no wrap. Justify content. And I'm going to say that this is based on the spacing that I'm seeing here. And we see this line here, right? This sort of indicates to me that this would be the size of the button, which means that there's space in between. So probably we want to do space evenly is what I'm guessing. And then these SVGs are all roughly the same size, but not exactly the same height. So I'm going to do align items center. Yeah. And then let's put a little, I'm going to add some margin just to push this down and just get it out of my way. And that's just temporary. Just so I can see what I'm doing and not be bothered by all of this. And then these buttons need well, technically we do need some margin here, don't we, on the top? And then I think these buttons just need, what do we think about the size? I think these SVGs need to be a little bit smaller. Clearly there's quite a bit of padding here. So I think these SVGs right now are 3 by 3, which is what we set as a global style, just to kind of get things under control. And technically, these should all have a class, right? Which they don't. So we do have a class called icon button, but we're going to change the size. We're going to change the size. Maybe we want to do a different class. Yeah, let's do a different class. We'll do, so instead of icon button, we'll do tab button because it is different. So let's go with a width of 2 rems, a height of 2 rems, and then tab button, SVG. Oh, and you know what? This is the wrong one. Actually gonna increase this to 4. And then this, I'm going to change the width to 2 rems and the height to 2 rems, which means the padding would be 1 rem. 1 plus 1 is 2, plus 2 is 4. And we'll see how that looks. Yeah, that works good. That works good. And how much do you want to bet? We'll put this down. How much do you want to bet we don't need padding now? Or margin, rather. Yeah, that works. Just like that. And then we can just add an underline for an active button. And then we're going to change the inactive color to this lighter gray. And even though we're not actually making tab content, I did put in the ARIA pressed attribute. So if you are making tab content, you would update ARIA pressed to let a screen reader know which button is pressed and which accordion or item they're looking at, which container they're looking at. So we can use ARIA press. We could also add an active class. Easy enough to do with a little bit of JavaScript. So our fill and stroke, just to cover our bases, would be gray. And then the tab button active SVG would be, I'm going to use the charcoal. There we go. Actually, black. That should be black. There we go. And then let's get that underline for the active, which the underline would just go, I'm just going to do a border bottom. So I'll do border bottom. I'm going to do 3 pixels, solid black. Oh, that's interesting. Oh, I put it on the SVG. That's why. It goes on the button. There we are. I kind of want to swap out this SVG. Let's see here. Grid, filled. Yeah, let's grab this filled version of the grid. And I'm adding aria hidden true. And it doesn't have any inline colors, so our styles should work just fine. There we go. And then if we take off this active class, you can see there that the underline and the color goes back to gray. Just like that. So I'm just Command Z, Control Z, just like that. Beautiful. All right. What do we think? I love it. All right, let's get our grid taken care of. So let's take our margin off. And this is here's the post grid. And the first thing that I'm going to do is correctly size these images. And anything that has an SVG and a fig caption, I want to get those taken care of first. Yeah. So I'm going to do the post, whoops. I'm going to do the post grid figure. And this is going to be position relative. And we already have on our fig captions access hidden, so those aren't displaying. And then we're going to do post grid SVG. And these are going to be position absolute, top 0, right 0. And that should immediately clean us up. Yep, just like that. And we're going to need a little z-index. So I'm going to say z-index 0 on the parent and z-index 1. And then we want a fill of white, and I'll also do a stroke of white just to cover my bases. There we go. Beautiful. So now we can get these images into the grid, and I don't have these SVGs getting in my way. And I guess I'm just going to do grid, right? Display grid, grid template columns. What is it? Repeat 3, 1 FR. Is that right? There we go. And then we're also going to, what is our aspect ratio roughly? Well, let's see here. So this is the way I do it. I just kind of roughly sketch it out using preview. And what is that? 393 by 516. So 393 divided by 516. I want to actually go in the other direction. .31. So it's 1 to 1.31. So I'm going to say with 100% height auto aspect ratio 1 to 1.31. And then the post grid image is going to be a width of 100%, height of 100%, and object fit cover. Nice. Now let's give this a tiny little bit of grid, or excuse me, gap, just a little bit. Right up here. So not very much, like, I don't know, 3 pixels. Not even that much. 1 pixel? 1 pixel. Look at that. Oh, it looks like I duplicated some. That's okay. And we have some images that are missing. It's like a real Instagram grid. You guys, it's so cool. And then let's put, for our bottom 3, we'll swap out this pin for our version of a Reels. Oh, and I think we just need like 1 pixel of margin below these buttons. Yeah. All right. And then let's style our SVGs. So I think these are a little smaller, maybe 1.25. Oh, hang on, wrong thing. These right here. And move this down a little bit. And then let's go ahead and transform, rotate. We want to go this way, so negative 45 degrees, positive 45 degrees. Wow, it looks so cool. And then let's swap out these SVGs, and let's take out this duplicate image. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So here's 1, 2, 3, 4. We'll take this out. And then there's 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's get in a different SVG. So we'll get our video camera outline. We'll add aria hidden true. And we'll take out the current color after we get them all in. And then we also need our fig caption. The fig caption explains the relationship between the SVG and the image. And that is for the screen reader. So we're going to say pinned reel, pinned reel. And then let's take out anything that says current color. All right, and so we need to these are pointed in the wrong direction, which is fine. So for let's go ahead and that's why we have classes, right? So by default, we're going to do a positive 45-degree angle, but we could also, in here, we could say, we could just go ahead and say real icon. Or instead of using real, we could just say video icon. Yeah. And then we can give that a different style. Because that is what class names are for. So this will be negative 45. Oh, I think we need to, we're going to have to, no, it needs to be, hang on. What is it if it's nothing? So it needs to be 90 plus 45, which is 135. That was too much. Hang on. Don't tell me. So negative. So if it goes this way and then points down, it's 90 degrees plus 45. Math. So 215. There we go. I love it. Oh, I still have duplicate puppies. Okay, that's fine. You know what, though? I'm not worried about the duplicate puppy picture. I just want to get the styles ironed out. So far, I am loving this. So maybe this is a pinned post and a pinned reel of puppies. Yeah. I like it. And I'm going to take out the last one just so our grid is nice and tidy. There we go. I love it. I feel like this should only be on 2 lines. Let's just adjust this a little bit. So is that just because boy, I see now. I mean, I never ever considered how difficult it was to. I've always just thought of responsive design as desktop, mobile. Maybe you give some consideration to an iPad. I don't think I've ever really put this much thought into different mobile screen sizes the way it's occurring to me that you kind of have to. Yeah, I don't know. It's just an observation, something I hadn't really thought of before. Um, it would be nice. So if we're going, so if this is translate backwards 1 rem, couldn't I just say with 100% plus 1 rem instead of messing with the font size? No, that doesn't. Yeah, you can't really, it's not letting me even force it open. All right, moving on. All right, let's get this footer taken care of. All right. Oh, we're doing really well. Okay, so our footer, let's see here. We're going to have to go back to 100%. There we go. That works. All right. So our footer looks like this. I want to check and see what's happening with these. Yeah, we can leave these here for now. If we need to come back and adjust these, we can. So for the footer, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 buttons. So I'm just going to go ahead and flexbox it. For justify content, I'm going to space around. which doesn't put it all the way up to the edge. It leaves some space, and then it spaces evenly everything else. And we'll do align items center. And I don't think we'll need a gap. And then let's get, so we've got basically buttons with icons with an SVG, and then we've got one button with an image. And I mean, how similar are these buttons to these buttons? Pretty close. The default color is different in the footer. That's it. So if we give these a class of, what was it, tab button? And then we can just change the default color for the footer tab button. SVG. The default color is black, so I'm going to do fill, black, and stroke. Black. And we can also update our house. Let's get a house that's not an outline but a fill. Yep, this works. And we'll make this aria hidden true. Oh, look at that. And then let's make our little profile image a circle, and then we just have to adjust some spacing. That took 5 minutes. What's happening? Why is this so, I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop. So let's go footer, figure, I'm gonna say width 100%, height auto, aspect ratio, whoops, 1 to 1. I know I could just do 1, but nah. And then border radius 50%. And then we'll do footer image. Width 100%, height 100%, object fit cover. What is happening here? Footer. Overflow hidden. You have to hide the overflow when you do the border radius. There we go. Look at that. And then we have a lot of extra space on the footer. I think that we can, yeah, let's go back and adjust our padding. So where's main? So we can take these off. We don't need these. So I'm going to say 0 padding on the top, 1 rem of padding on the left and right, and 2 rems of padding on the bottom. Yeah, that works. That works. I just want to tinker with this a little bit. I'm still sort of annoyed by this. I'm going to make this a tiny bit smaller, and I'm going to change the font size for this to 0.9 rems. And the best I'm going to be able to do is that it wraps to 3 lines. And I'm not going to worry about it. There we go. I think it looks fantastic. I mean, it would be really, really cool to actually make this interactive and have it scroll through as opposed to feed. But this is pretty cool too. And we did this entire project without any JavaScript. It was purely just recreate the UI. That's all this was. Oh, look at the image, looks a little wonky up there, doesn't it? See, it looks okay here. Oh, you can't see that. It looks okay here, but on iOS, it doesn't look quite right, does it? That's worth exploring. Everything else looks really good, though. Yeah, this was a fun little project. You can't see the background gray. That's just a result of, I think that's just OBS kind of blowing out those gray colors. That happens a lot when I use light gray, like borders and subtle shadows and things like that. Just don't come through. They don't translate well on OBS, but they are there. Not quite sure what the deal is with that image, but I know we did something that was like kind of not traditional, like, let's see here with the profile. So we did padding, border, and then a background with a combination of a linear gradient and a conic gradient. So something with this padding box and border box, iOS does not like. So that's interesting. That's something to kind of explore and dig into. So the two things that I would probably spend a little time on, but I don't think that I'm gonna this is one of those situations where I'm just gonna say, you know what? Done is better than perfect. There's some technical debt here. There's some things that could be improved and figured out. Done is better than perfect. I would like to understand better what's happening with this gradient background. What is happening with how we're getting this gradient background. I've never even heard of conic gradient before. So this would be, I would like to understand this a little bit better. And clearly there's something here that's not that doesn't play well with iOS. So between that and sort of this issue with the buttons, I think this is the first time where I've had to make sure that buttons of different widths, so it's an organic width based on the size of the text, or in our case, an SVG, maintains its width and grows and shrinks appropriately based on the screen size. So I think those are the two things where I'm kind of like, oh yeah, I'm not actually sure how to deal with that. Yeah, but for the purposes of our project, we're done. And I still think it turned out great. So I have no regrets. I have no regrets. So everybody, thank you so much. Have a great rest of your day wherever you are. Thank you to everybody who hung out with me today. Do me a favor. If you haven't liked the video yet, please hit the thumbs up. That helps the algorithm. It helps me push out this content to more people who might be interested in front-end development. And if you haven't subscribed yet, I would appreciate it so much if you would do so. I'm here every weekend, Saturday and Sunday, 10:30 a.m. Central Standard Time. We just do front-end development with HTML, vanilla CSS, and vanilla JavaScript. So with that being said, have a great rest of your day wherever you are, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.